oh, that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He performed maneuvers. The reason they call him Sky King is because professional pilots were like, he was doing stuff that plane should not be able to do. How was he able to do that? And he's talking to air traffic control, and like, they're trying to get him to land, and he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm kind of hit my wits end. I'm just going to nose down into Ketron Island right now, and yeah, see you later.
I notice I'm not getting bullied as much, and they're like, well, it's because you snapped and took a branch and started beating on this guy for calling you a nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? To this day, I don't remember this actually being a thing, but it was so, like, they said it so nonchalant, and they weren't even like, later they were like, oh, I got you, man. Like, I was just fucking with you.
And maybe that should be the direction people should be considering when they're getting to that point. Like, if you're going to do something big, why not make it better humanity and not make it worse?
Yeah, that would be nice. Whatever your fucking political ideals are, put that to the side and be like, you know what's right? You're just calling out some bullshit. Snap into a Slim Jim.
Oh, it's a good way to start it. Welcome to another fantabulous kitchen sink microscopy. Sorry, it's a little hot up here. I'm kind of struggling. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and we'd love it if you'd like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and all that jazz. Yeah, hit the little bell if you want. I don't know, if you want notifications.
Yeah. Snap into a Slim Jim. I am Macho Man Casey Rochford, and we would really love it if you would hang out to the end to hear the song, because the song is awesome, and that's where you'll find it, right there. So, what would you like to snap into tonight?
Well, snapping is a pretty appropriate term, because so recently one local news station here to the Seattle Tacoma area has been airing videos about a guy who's affectionately known as Sky King, who I probably should pull up his name just to get it. But he essentially stole an aircraft. Like, he worked at an airport and stole an aircraft and flew it by himself, flying all around. And like,
oh, that guy.
Yeah. He performed maneuvers. The reason they call him Sky King is because professional pilots were like, he was doing stuff that plane should not be able to do. How was he able to do that? And he's talking to air traffic control, and like, they're trying to get him to land, and he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm kind of hit my wits end. I'm just going to nose down into Ketron Island right now, and yeah, see you later. And
yeah,
basically crashed himself.
Yeah, I remember that. I always wondered, wow, can these passenger jets do things that fighter jets can, but they just don't? And then I saw, oh yeah, they kind of can. I mean, he purposely blew himself up before you really saw like how much strain a plane like that could take, but it was moving like a fucking Top Gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was wild.
Oh yeah,
And
he was doing.
and tragic too. It's like the dude could have just like gone to jail, but like he was like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of what I want to talk about is people who hit some kind of threshold and just snapped like a Slim Jim. Because this guy, he kind of got to that point, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to go out with a bang. Okay. So Richard Russell, that was the guy's name. That's Sky King. Um, yeah, and he hijacked a Horizon. Well, he didn't really hijack. He just got into one and flew it. And by the way, the guy did not have any flying experience. He'd never flown before.
Oh,
Never.
wow.
Like he had never flown before.
What?
So yeah, like he had an understanding of how things worked, but he hadn't flown, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, if you're gonna go out, what a way to go. He didn't hurt anybody. He just wanted to end things in like a really cool way and be remembered, I guess. And he really is like, he is revered. That's why they call him Sky King.
And I mean, blowing up on the island instead of just like going into the drink. A lot of people probably would think, well, he could have hurt somebody. But I mean, there's Killdozer. He did some severe damage to buildings and stuff. There could have been somebody in there. Like it's too far to go either way. Like, oh, they were a saint and they didn't, they knew they would hurt nobody, but oh, they're not exactly like pristine and proper because
we'll have to cover Killdozer too, because that's a good one. And not, I don't think, oh man, there's so many possible angles here. But like, well, yeah, with Sky King, I don't think he was trying to hurt anybody, and I mean, landing on a very sparsely populated island is a good way to do that. And maybe he was aiming for the water. I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously,
landing is probably not the right word.
Yeah, well, that's true. Crashing. Yeah. Now,
as we're painting a picture for people that maybe haven't heard of it, landing is not the right word.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think about throwing in some footage of the aftermath, because I mean, it was fire everywhere. If I remember, we'll see. It depends on how much of this I've had. But I don't know. I guess I can kind of respect that.
I think everybody's been there at some level.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The ending it all sort of thing, but it didn't have to come to that. But then again, like, what would happen if he landed gracefully? Would they be like, "Oh, good, you're back safely"? No, he'd be in handcuffs and in prison. Like that'd be it. His life was probably not very good before, and it would certainly be not very good after. Yeah. So maybe he saw it as there's no other choice. You could always
snapping is just going a little bit too far off of one side of the fence here, leaning on, like it's just extreme behavior that most people don't like. It's your polar opposite of like the happiest you could be, like you, as much as you want to achieve that, physics is going to bounce you right back the other direction with just as much force.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think everybody, no matter who you are, I mean, we're all human. We all suffer from grief or strife in some form or another, be it real or imagined. And honestly, maybe there's really no difference between them. It matters how it affects you and how you feel it and how you deal with it. Um, Everybody deals with it. Everybody is faced with stuff from time to time. Um, it, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I had a point. I'll remember
Since you
it.
lost your point, what you were just saying somehow reminded me of, we need to write a song that includes like an audio clip of the show, because sometimes what we say carries this rhythm, and I feel like it would sound really cool in a song.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be cool.
But that's kind of an aside. See, that's snapping in a good way, in a nice artistic and constructive way.
Well, sure. And
But you can just as easily snap in the other direction.
well, yeah, and maybe it's good to lose control from time to time, but perhaps in a controlled way or a directional way.
And most of us do. We've got
Yeah,
outlets.
that's
You know,
very true.
I'll go pump some iron or whatever, like you.
Or go for a run, or I'm gonna
Yeah.
like do this, build this crazy thing like the Taj Mahal or something like that. You,
Yeah.
you like that's the good kind of
That's why people ask about hobbies on job interviews, isn't it? They want to see how fucking tense you are. Like,
mhm.
if you have no hobbies to like let off steam in one form or another, you must be really pent up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Like
And
like
that,
the feel that you exude is something that can actually like boil over. So
oh,
like
for
you just
sure.
have to feel emotions, and you can let them like choke and then build up all this pressure and snap, or you could just have some fucking outlets here and there. Like,
Yeah, hobbies are certainly one of those kinds of outlets. Like you 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 can like pour your energy, negative or positive, into doing a thing, and it gives you a sense of accomplishment, and purpose. Because I think when people snap, they feel like they have no purpose. They're like, well, obviously, if they're willing to die or kill, that is the case.
yeah,
Um,
they're longing to create that purpose, focuses into this event that's so bombastic that it becomes part of local lore
yeah, exactly. Well,
or
and like,
national lore.
oh yeah, oh, this is global. Like Sky King
Mhm.
is recognized across the world.
Wow.
And it troubles me when I see things like Columbine and such, with what amounts to people who are kind of just beginning their life,
Same effect.
hitting that threshold. Like, wow,
Yeah.
a lot of people start to feel useless or downtrodden much later in life, and it really bugs me when I see young people um, hit that point and do something drastic,
Yeah.
especially when it isn't really that. Well, I mean, bullying certainly is a big deal, but it's not like a no way out situation like Killdozer. Uh,
Yeah. Well, it's, before it gets too downer, conflict like that, is very negative. It's somebody dying or, acting out in some way that's bad. But there's those expressions of emotion that can do good and achieve those same milestones in popular society, right? Like, oh, I'm known internationally, well, I'm known globally, you know. You can do that with good stuff too. Like, you know, there was like Live Aid where like however many people showed up to that, and it was all this great influx of money for charity and stuff. Like a huge concentrated focused point of good that creates a mark that people remember. You know, like it happens both ways, and you got to have the end with the end. So while it does suck to have these huge focused tragedies, I think a lot of it might come from how pent up we create ourselves to be as a society.
Yeah.
Like finding its way into the little cracks in the system and leaking out at the weakest point there.
Sure. Huh. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Well, it doesn't always have to be destructive.
Yeah.
There are examples of people snapping in well, potentially self-destructive ways, but I mean that depends on how you view things. But there's the lawn chair balloon guy, Larry Walters.
Yeah.
That was actually, I think, Mythbusters is one of their season 1 things they tested.
Yeah.
Guy just randomly decided one day, you know what? I want to fly. I'm going to take a lawn chair and tie like a whole bunch of these helium-filled weather balloons to
That's
it.
actually not even a difficult calculation to do. So, you know, if you know the physics equations that you got to plug in here and there, that's like first level physics shit, trying to figure out how much buoyancy you need to offset your mass, like times acceleration.
Well, but I mean, it isn't something the average person would just be like, oh, that sounds like a safe and fun afternoon activity.
Right.
You know, it's but he did at least incorporate a very lo-fi solution for decreasing buoyancy to get down, which was having a pellet gun, I think, to shoot some of the balloons.
Lo-fi.
but like he did it, and of course it became this huge thing, like the FAA gets involved and all kinds of government organizations and stuff. It's like, hey man, dude just wanted to fly. What's wrong with that? Who's he harming? Like he went up and he came down and like there you go. Like that
and who could he harm doing that? Like worse comes to worse, like he falls on somebody's roof and he's hurt badly or dies from it, but at most property you've got some property damage.
Yeah, it's not really, and it would be probably negligible. I mean, you know, okay, if he fell out of the lawn chair, he didn't have a seatbelt or any kind of harness, which is kind of an issue. I would totally have that if I were doing that. And but you could potentially fall out, and I mean, statistically, it's pretty unlikely, but you could land on like a small child and kill them.
Right. I was gonna say that, like, that is statistically pretty rare that would happen, but you also have to factor in how many people aren't going to be like, look out, kid, a falling dude. You know, like
how often is that happening? And are people even looking for that? Like humans falling out of the sky? But here's the thing. For a minute,
step to your left, there's another dude falling out of the sky.
Well, and I kind of get it. Like if you have a humdrum, mundane sort of life, why not do something crazy like that? Like for that brief moment in time, that guy lived. Like he did something no one else had done. Prior to him doing that, no human being had ever strapped a bunch of weather balloons to a lawn chair and flew them like that. And or since, I think, well, except for Mythbusters, they did that, but it's like it's not like a common thing. So I mean, that is remarkable. That's kind of something to feel good about. Like, hey, wow, I accomplished something.
And
You know, my
he
life.
came back to Earth, and he's alive still.
I believe so. Yeah, if I remember. Yeah, he came back.
Okay, I
Yeah,
was
that did not
when you
end in
said the
tragedy.
FAA got involved, I was like, okay, did they disappear him or
No, it's because you know you have to have a license to do stuff like you know hot air balloon kind of stuff. Um, and you know violating air restricted airspace and stuff, whatever.
this is where I agree with you on regulation. A license thing really needs to have some flex to it. I think you just
Mhm.
did a minute microscopy on this. You know, like it shouldn't be as all hard and fast. It's like you should be able to require a license for somebody to take passengers or fellow crewmen or something
Yes.
up. Yeah, I get that. Let's regulate the shit out of that. But if somebody achieves it on their own, on the private sense, if just at the very least, go to them and say, hey, if you're going to be up here when we are, you're going to need to communicate with us just for your own safety and our safety. So here's gratis all the equipment you'll need to like be part of the network and communicate and just do what you want to do and be on your jolly merry way.
Well, yeah, I mean, most aircraft have transponders. In fact, drones, the bigger drones,
Yeah. Imagine going to
communicate with each
Walmart and
other.
getting your fucking transponder. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, want to fly? You think you know how to not die doing it?
Mm-hmm.
More power to you. Here's what you'll need to be safe.
Yeah, I agree with you that if you're carrying passengers, like it's a commercial venture,
Mm-hmm.
there should be some kind of training involved.
Yeah.
And even in the absence of government, there would be that requirement, and it would come in the form of insurance companies.
Yeah.
Because as a
And
business, you want insurance because you know if there, God forbid, there's some kind of fatal accident, you don't want to pay yourself. Like that's what insurance is for.
and
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 insurance companies would require that. They'd be like, no, you're not gonna, you can't just have any old like Jack or Jill go up and carry people. No, you got to be trained. Like
yeah,
we're not going to cover you if you're not trained.
like I guess a good rule for what should be a regulation is like if you can imagine yourself saying like if that were me, I would want to feel safe knowing that they know how to do what they're doing.
Well, okay, why don't we? I mean, there's a lot of examples of people snapping or kind of reaching this kind of breaking point where they just kind of they
Well,
go from being a meek person who just kind of like accepts the way life is to being someone who goes out there and changes things or makes a statement
well,
essentially.
what's your personal like snap moment?
um
It's got to be something pretty poignant that would jump out at you if you've ever actually snapped. Like you would be able to say, "Oh man, this one time I felt." Uh,
well, I mean, bullying was originally the thing because
mhm.
I did beat somebody down because of that finally.
Yeah,
And
I
they were quite surprised. Um,
I have a sense that um, I mine might be similarly motivated because and this is trippy because in seventh or eighth grade I started to notice I wasn't getting bullied as much. And I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was like, I noticed I'm not getting bullied as much. And they're like, well, it's because you snapped and took a branch and started beating on this guy for calling you a nerd.
Mhm.
And I was like, what? I, to this day, I don't remember this actually being a thing, but it was so like they said it so nonchalant, and they weren't even like later they were like, "Oh, I got you, man." Like I was just fucking with you. Like they were just talking about it like it was a fact, and I actually have no memory of this, but
Huh.
that's kind of weird, right? Like,
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess if you stand up for yourself, and strike fear into the heart of somebody who's being mean to you, word gets around.
yeah,
Like, oh, don't mess with this guy. Like, he'll fuck you up
it's just kind of
right
weird that
quick.
I blocked it out. Like,
Well, things like that do happen.
I mean, the thought of actually being violent does kind of upset me. So,
It does to me too. I mean, when I was younger, it didn't as much, but now I'm much more of a pacifist. Like I believe in solving problems with conversation, and diplomacy rather than violence. Like I think violence is the absolute last resort that you should go to. Um, but I do understand people who do get to that point. I mean, you're saying like, or you're asking what would get me to that point. I think family, like somebody doing something bad to a family member, and by family I don't mean blood family. It's like people who are close to me, who are part of my inner circle, so to
oh yeah,
speak. If somebody did something really awful, yeah, I'd have to step up and like exact vengeance or make it stop or something like that.
actually, you know what? Like that kind of happened to me lately. Uh, a very long time friend of mine was going through something painful. Well, he still is. Um, and it was something quite akin to what I've recently been through. And of course, I was like, I wanted to help him as much as I could. And I tried to apply some of the show principles, and I talked to like, it's a four-person sort of party in this drama. So I
Mm-hmm.
got 3 out of 4 of the perspectives, and I tried best I could with my obvious and declared bias. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to display things as factually as possible. I tried to be a media source,
Mm-hmm.
um, exercising as much as possible I could to restrain my own bias and report on what actually happened, most likely.
Yeah.
75% of the stories, right?
Hmm.
I got blowback from that so much that a friend of 35 years who is related to the guy I was helping threatened to get me into some like deep legal shit with some bullshit
What?
over helping somebody with facts.
And helping people in a way that gets them to understand each other too.
How many people in that story were snapping at some point,
Mm-hmm.
like in different ways, right? Like,
Wow. It's interesting what the threshold is for a lot of people. I think a lot of people think they're resilient and strong and could bend like the willow, but it's like
there's something to break everybody.
yeah, and some of those things are actually quite insignificant. It doesn't take a lot. Um,
Yeah.
but it comes down to perspective. It's like how you view the world, how you view yourself, your place in the world, that kind of thing. I think
The,
all of these things factor in.
the end of the world could be cut between the choice to make the most flippant decision.
Yeah.
Like, do I want grapes or bananas?
Hmm.
I'll go for the bananas. a bullet
nuclear war after that. Yeah, I could totally see that happen. Like, and yeah, people do get incensed and pissed off over the most trivial things. Like, you know, you got to have a less myopic worldview. You got to see the kind of struggles and strifes that other people are going through and how they still remain positive and find a way to be happy despite that. I mean, yeah, there is a cutoff point for everyone. Um, you know, I guess my movie recommendation for this episode, because I do tend to do that. My movie recommendation is a movie called Falling Down.
Wait, what's that about?
It's basically about a guy that works in an office, um, and a series of really unfortunate and aggravating conditions lead him to just kind of like he's in traffic at the beginning of the movie and he just gets out of his car and starts walking and interacts with like gang members and steals their guns and like throws a baseball bat at somebody and like goes into the whammy burger place and like shoots the ceiling.
Sounds like a music video for Everclear.
Oh, it's well, he like shoots the ceiling or shoots the place up, not killing any people, but shoots it because it was like 1 minute after the cutoff point for breakfast. And like it's a great movie. Like it's kind of sad in a way. Like he just wants to get to his daughter's birthday party and there's a whole familial dynamic going on that interferes with that and he's frustrated with it and that all stacks up. Like this is a thing people don't understand. I think that
there's a sad story behind every tragedy.
Well, there is, but people don't snap because of one thing. It's a stack of things. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like you can handle quite a lot of stress and a lot of bad, unfortunate situations, but at some point you're going to hit a point where, and everybody can, we're not immune to this. No human is immune to this, where there's just this one little thing. Like it could just be like the traffic light isn't changing fast enough, or this one asshole, one asshole bicyclist keeping me from getting there, or somebody sitting in line, getting in your way in the store, or who knows, whatever, or the last bill that you got that's like
$700.
Yeah. And that's my utility bills. Jesus. But those are the things, and it isn't that thing that causes you to snap. It's the totality of things. It's the weight of all of those things piling on your back that you're finally like, I've had enough. I'm going to do something about this. And of course, most people don't know what to do, so they just do something, which is just an aimless kind of, well, it's kind of like in Falling Down. He just gets out of his car and just starts walking. There is no direction. I'm getting out of here. And there's even a scene with a rocket launcher in a construction site. Like it's a great movie. Like it's a really good movie. I'm telling you.
I think the music video for Walk by Foo Fighters kind of starts like that. Like Dave Grohl's sitting in traffic and then he just gets out and starts walking. And
it might be inspired by Falling Down, honestly. It's like a highly recommended movie. It so well constructed too. It tells a really good story. So watch Falling Down if you're feeling at your wit's end. Watch that movie.
I think in varying levels of doses. I think everybody goes through this from time to time where you snap.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be as grandiose or as, final as, Killdozer or Sky King, but you could make as big an impact as these people that, well, I mean, what are celebrities if not people that made some big impact, even as minuscule as like a socially interesting impact, like the celebrity status, like, oh, that's a cool person, look what they do that I really admire. I mean, that's kind of shallow, but it is still some good. So.
Sure, and maybe that should be the direction people should be considering when they're getting to that point. Like, if you're gonna do something big, why not make it better humanity and not make it worse?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Even if it means self-sacrifice, like even if you're gonna die,
Well, and
die
you've
in a
already
way.
chosen that you are gonna die, so like make it worth it.
Well, yeah, and leave a legacy that you know if your life is so meaningless that you're willing to die, or you're in a place that you feel there's no alternative, like, okay, well, make it count. Make your death save lives. Don't kill people who have nothing to do with anything. Save lives.
I guess in that way, maybe they are kind of selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like the selfish suicide is the one that takes the most attention with it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it makes a big deal of it, if it's something where you crawl away in a hole and you get it done and you make sure nobody ever has to go through the terror of actually finding you, because
Mm-hmm.
as much as like not knowing really sucks, anytime we say goodbye to somebody, we don't know if that's the last
Oh,
time we'll ever see them. It's
yeah.
only until we know that for sure that we.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. The hope of there being a possibility. Like, I know that a lot of people I'm obsessed now with watching like murder mysteries and missing persons videos. Um, like, people, the lack of closure tends to make people very troubled, but maybe that's a good thing. Like, if
Yeah,
you just
because
vanish and no one knows definitively, it's like Bigfoot, right? Like,
yeah,
we don't have proof that Bigfoot exists, but the fact that there's like a couple of little hints here and there, a couple of grainy videos and some anecdotal stories and stuff, it's like, well, we can believe that.
yeah,
um
if
but
you
but
keep the regret at bay, like
Mhm.
oh, that isn't true and I know it now and the whole magic is ruined for me,
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's,
But if
yeah,
I mean, there's something to be said for going out like Sky King. Like, I gotta say, I respect the guy for that. Like, what a way to go. If you're gonna go, that is spectacular.
yeah. And I mean, if that's what you want to do, I'm not the person to say that's like a selfish motive, or like, who's that really helping? It's just getting you talked about for time immemorial, and maybe that's what you value, and that's fine.
And it could go a long way to helping the cause, like people who are in the same boat.
Yeah,
um uh,
well, it's why we're having this conversation.
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I don't want to encourage people to do stuff like steal an aircraft and fly it into an island, but maybe it'll help soothe people who are going through their own difficult situations. Like, oh, I understand that, and wow, that really sucks. And I don't know. I think
Well,
there's pros and cons there.
and the polar opposite negative effect is the financial impact that stealing and crashing a plane caused on somebody. Like,
Yeah, well, okay, actually, it's kind of funny. You should.
but we don't hear about that one.
Well, no, generally not. I'm sure insurance covered it. It's probably Horizon Air. They took care of it. However, they did. The news organization that was recently releasing videos about this event released a video interviewing a lady who lives on Ketron Island, who owns the piece of property where the plane crashed. And she was bitching about finding pieces of the aircraft still to this day. Like, she was bitching about it. Like, bro, I'm still finding stuff. And they didn't really, the people came and they didn't really clean things up. And it's like, a guy like killed himself here. And that's what you're complaining about? Like finding scrap? I mean, honestly, you could post that on eBay. You could take every piece of scrap and sell it on eBay with the hashtag Sky King, and it would sell for thousands of dollars.
Fucking seriously?
Like, yeah, yeah. She was complaining about that. Like, oh, well, the damage, it's still a thing. Like,
ooh, this $1,000 bill is muddy.
Yes. Like, wow, holy shit, lady. Man. Ugh. So I guess we should probably talk about Killdozer.
Yeah. That's a dude that, like, I mad props. Like,
he is iconic. That is Marvin Heemeyer, I think his name is. If my understanding is correct, it's been a while since I've read anything or watched any videos about his story, but basically it was like him against the state. There was some government regulatory tax bullshit that he had to deal with
or something.
Yeah. I could pull up the article about that, but yeah, so let's see. Hold on. Maybe I should get some information.
Well, he jumped through every hoop, and I can relate to that with like Social Security, disability.
Yeah,
he's made a microscopy for that.
Yep.
Yeah,
and still it wasn't enough.
Exactly. Yeah, like you can check all the boxes and do everything the way they tell you to, and then they'll still be like,
yep. Yeah.
Sorry. We were hoping you wouldn't come this far, but yeah, we're kind of out of tricks to keep you busy. We can't do anything for you.
Exactly. Well, and after all that, he kind of like, he was like a Kobayashi Maru sort of situation, like a no-win circumstance, and didn't really have a way out. And the guy had a bulldozer and was a really good welder. So he just took a bunch of plate steel, like really thick shit, welded it onto the bulldozer, and just went out on a destructive rampage.
Let's not diminish the fact that this took time. Thoughtful planning. Like, this wasn't like, oh, I'm so depressed I must kill myself now, sort of
I don't think
in the moment thing. It's like this guy was like, I have to recognize the fact that I probably won't come away from this alive, but I feel like this is something I need to do, and I'm going to plan how to do it without hurting people or having the best chance of surviving as long as I can.
Make a statement. I don't know that he knew he wasn't going to make it. Like, the reason he didn't make it out alive is because he crushed a building and got stuck and was surrounded and knew there was no way out. Like, oh, you're high centered on something, you can't get out. And he took his own life. Like, seppuku, right? Like, okay, well, you're not having me. Like, okay, I guess I can respect that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like,
actually, that makes sense. Like, more people should do that. We should normalize doing that.
Mm-hmm.
As sick as this might sound to people, like normalizing a form of suicide, if you know you're like, and let's forget about the like miracle what if stories that come true every now and then and we make a TV movie about. Like, you know, pretty damn sure you're not going to get out. Take your own life so you're not like taking something that could happen like that and dragging it out for months as some kind of vegetable.
Yeah,
You know, like
I have always said, and this is probably well, if you hear a story about a hijacked fighter jet, it's probably going to be me. I've always said, like, yeah, if there is a situation like that, I don't want to die in a bed in a sad state hooked up to a bunch of machinery. I'm going to go out in a fireball. So that was my thought when I was younger, is as I get older, I'm going to drive faster and faster cars and fly aircraft and things like that, like get more and more dangerous. Because if you're going to go, you might as well go in a really cool way, like Evil Knievel style or something like that. So
like, as we get more famous, you're going to be like the Richard Branson.
Exactly. Starting with like hot air balloons and moving up to, you know, propeller driven aircraft, spacecraft, and then like faster than light propulsion, experimental things, black hole propulsion. And why not? Like, you know, I guess that's useful. There's a value in that.
That's funny, like equating what will be as celebrities or whatever. Like at the beginning of this episode, I was just thinking like, oh, your celebrity equation would be like John Oates or something, you know, with your hair getting all long. But now it's Branson.
Yeah. Oh man. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing, like going back to Killdozer for a minute, the interesting thing about that is he was very selective. Like you said, uh-oh.
Never mind my drunk ass. Smack it into the mic with my glass. Sorry about that.
Well, it's okay. I could do that with a can, I guess. That's not really as dramatic.
That is acoustically uncouth of me.
So, okay. I consider the Marvin, the Killdozer guy, to be he's pretty iconic, and he's iconic in my circle of people. So what he did, it was a calculated thing. He took his time building his weapon, essentially, and he was very selective about where he went. He didn't go off and randomly kill a bunch of people, crash into a bunch of random cars. No, he went after government buildings.
Yep.
The you know, and vehicles and stuff. Like, I mean, obviously it's kind of hard to control, and so there might have been some collateral damage, but he was mostly focused on doing damage to those who have done him wrong. Like,
yeah,
because I mean, what recourse do you have if you've tried everything and they're still fucking you? I mean, it does feel akin to rape, you know. Like you've submitted and tried to follow all the rules and do whatever they say, and yet they're still abusing you over and over and over again.
That's
I mean,
a great way to put it, actually.
Yeah.
It's like rape.
Yeah.
Like that feeling. No, like I legit now like relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
With what I went through with Social Security disability after having cancer, and they were like, here's your disability money. They were like, you're not disabled anymore. And it's like, wait a minute, what? This shit hurts every day, all day.
Mm-hmm.
what? And they were like, yeah, no,
Mhm.
that does equate to rape. It's like, I depended on this and you can provide it, and you just stopped providing it.
Mhm.
And we're like, because we're us. And like, who is really okay with because I said so? You know, like,
Well,
who
that's kind
really
of like
feels good
saying
when that happens, you know,
it,
like
it's kind of like saying, because we're the parents.
black card, Rimmer,
Mhm.
black card.
Well, and this guy did everything right. Like he followed the rules. He was a good person, and
Yeah.
was a productive member of society, and he got shafted by the system. And I honestly, I don't blame him for like striking back. Maybe that needs to happen more often. Like to, if nothing else, to raise awareness and get people conversing about these things. Like, hey, maybe this system is fucking broken. Maybe we need to make it better. Why are we settling for the way things are?
Yeah.
Like,
It costs nothing to be nice. So, like, why isn't everything we do in life a decision about whether or not we give charity to somebody
mhm,
who's experiencing conflict?
yeah.
You know, like, if everything was relaxed enough, you know, this whole black and white, like, I'm sorry we have to do it this way because this is the policy. I'm just doing my job. I'm just following orders.
Oh,
Those are all of the forms of the words that are ruining everything about existence.
yes. Well, because everything at that point becomes
Did I just become
reduced.
an anarchist?
Uh, maybe. Hey, welcome to the club. High five. Uh, I, it, yeah, it. Oh man, that. Huh. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. There's a lot of angles going on now.
That got
Um,
kind of deep, yeah.
it, it is, but it's something that like we should be having conversations about and considering. Like we should be benefiting people, and these monolithic systems like governments and big ass corporations, which are basically governments too. Um,
Yep.
like they reduce everything down. Everything, us humans become numbers. We become IDs essentially. Like that's it. We're just a cog in the wheel. We don't matter. And when you're in a system that's so huge, it's very easy to get caught up in like, oh, I've got to stamp these things and do my job and whatnot, and lose sight of the original purpose behind those things, like which is taking care of people, making the world a better place. That's what we should be doing. And yeah, these systems have absolutely, at least in the Western world, have become so behemoth that they can't. Not only do they not provide the things they're claiming to provide, but they can't, and they won't. So, if people kind of get pissed off about that, like, I get it. I totally understand. And that brings me to Timothy McVeigh.
Damn.
You know about that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know that I've ever heard like a positive intro to Timothy McVeigh.
am I the only person who has done that? I mean, I don't consider it like, okay, again, I'm a pacifist. Like, I don't think violence is the answer, but I understand when people reach that point, when you have no other options, like observed options, like, and maybe the education system is at fault, that we don't know enough to know what we can actually do to solve problems. Maybe this is the byproduct of giving us like a shitty public education. Like this is what happens. Like people don't know what to do when they hit this point, and they just kind of get violent.
There's a lot of factors that, you know, we could fix and we don't, that feed into these kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Like we are in enough of a post-scarce society that we can at least make most things not so scarce to everyone.
Yeah.
Like I'll just caveat the shit out of it and say it that way. But from henceforth, I will just say, like, we live in a post-scarce society and mean it that way. Like, we can do all this. We can talk like this and identify these problems and try to fix these problems. Like, while other people are out on the fascia thinking like, oh, we need to fix how we look at race. That'll all get fixed if we think better about more fundamental things.
Yeah. That's
like
a really good
things
point.
that will actually fucking save our lives. Like the environment's one of them. Like I'm hearing a surprising amount of people being like, and I've never been a huge environmentalist, mind you, but like it troubles me when I hear people be like, oh, this is all hoax, you know, like it's just a cycle, you know, it's like it's just a cycle going up like vertically.
Well, even if it is, like, let's say it is. Let's say those people are right. That's no reason to not take care of Spaceship Earth, and to not
going to
care
do worse
of our home. Like I'm like a huge environmentalist, but in a different way than most people consider it to be. Like, yeah, I do reuse and conserve and take care of things, and I think about things. I think about my own impact on the planet.
You have to accept that you have to minimize your impact. You cannot eliminate your impact. Your trajectory has to be toward reality. You have to think, okay, there is no way I can exist on this earth without causing it burden in some way. Like, so like nuclear, like you talk about a lot
at length. Yes.
Most people are like, oh, but what do we do with the waste that takes forever and ever to decay? Well, it's like, yeah, but how much waste gives you how much energy?
Yeah, and the alternatives like coal and solar and wind and hydroelectric and stuff like that, how does that harm the planet? Like, you know, you put it on a scale, yeah, nuclear is absolutely the best possible solution. And yeah,
even human labor going into something, you know, like if we can refine how hard it is to produce energy for the world, that's a net positive too, because people, we got to remember we are a commodity too. Our energy that we give in order to better others as well as to be made better by them, that's all an expenditure. Everybody wants to recoup as much as they can of their expenditure.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
Life is just transactional. I don't like that.
Well, I mean,
it feels so like, give me, if you're gonna take,
well, that might be a linguistic thing. Like, it depends on how you look at it. Trade is probably a more friendly word in that regard. Barter or something like that. Yeah, we do. So on planet Earth, with our evolution of technological expertise, we've essentially solved everything. There are no shortages. It's it's all made up, essentially. Like, there is enough energy, enough resources to go around. Now, one of the problems, I think they call it the tragedy of the commons in economics, is like when it feels like things are infinite and will last forever. Like, there's enough of, the buffalo will never go extinct. We could just keep shooting them for sport. Well, the buffalo actually almost went extinct because we shot them for sport. Like, there is a limit to resources. We should always be careful of what we use and consider the implications of that. Like, there's a Bernie Mac episode. Oh, rest in peace, bro. There's an episode of Bernie Mac where he discovers like the Bernie Mac universe version of Costco and buys like huge tubs of ice cream and big packages of toilet paper, and his kids just like waste it because they're like, well, there's so much toilet paper, there's so much ice cream, like it's never gonna end. And well, yeah, it's a good episode. I don't remember the name of it, but oh man, I missed that show.
Who would have thought Bernie Mac episodes would be all philosophical?
It was great because it did show like the perception of infinity, that like infinite resources makes people less cautious. I think we should be more cautious. We should consider that, like, well, there really isn't a lot here. I think about that all the time, and well, it gives me actually nightmares sometimes about exhaustion of resources. Yeah, I'm a weirdo. But I do think about that, and it's like, yeah, we have to take care of this place we call home. Like, I don't know if humans are good or bad. I can't really make that call, but certainly we could do a lot of good and we could do a lot of bad. Like, it's very easy for things to slide one way or another. And
what if we're just on the cusp of an, I don't know, like an evolutionary catalyst that directs us in a complete other direction? You know, like everything's just kind of coming to a head and making it so that only a few are actually going to have the adaptations needed to survive this new way of being. And becoming a whole other level of being that, you know, has enough, you know, knowledge built on the shoulders of giants to have lore, you know, things they can't tell, like fiction from reality, and they've created like an entire imaginary world that help them to thrive, to be bigger thinkers and more inventive and more creative, and thereby even more inventive, you know, and we just move into the next evolutionary phase.
I do think that we are sort of in a transitional state right now. We have a lot of knowledge. I mean,
and carrying that on to a new species, that could do so much better. I don't know, like,
or just future generations too. Like, we should be teaching our kids these things. I mean, yeah, it's nice to know your own home country language and some mathematics and stuff like that, but they're bigger things here at stake. Like, why can't we create, or why doesn't every high school student graduating from high school, why aren't they all uh geniuses?
Yeah.
Like, with the money we spend, they ought to be. Just saying. Um, and
Yeah,
with
I
the
mean, like
knowledge we have too.
there should be academic review of pedagogy, and
Yeah.
how effective is the teaching we're providing to people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we're not seeing the kind of like educational growth that we want to see in the climate of our intelligence, maybe we need to rethink how we're teaching.
Yeah, which goes back to my
It's like I see value in regulating teaching because, like I said earlier, if you can imagine yourself in that other person's shoes, would you want someone to know what they're doing in order to do this thing for you?
well, I agree
But you should be able to change that
that
as needed.
that is my point. I was gonna say I agree
Yeah.
as long as the people making the regulatory decisions are geniuses too.
Yeah.
Like, they have all the
Well,
answers.
you don't
And
have
I
to
don't
be a
think anybody,
genius. You just
no,
have to be nice.
well,
You have
maybe,
to say, oh, well, that's going to inconvenience you if I do it the way that I did for your neighbor. I'll do it the way that makes you happy. It's no extra skin off my ass. That's all it takes. But we have this strict regulation. It's like you can have regulation that says, hey, that might be bad.
mm-hmm.
Instead of that is always bad. It doesn't matter if there's a situation B or C or D. It's always bad. And it's like, well, most of the time I'm going to be pissed off because I can't do this thing that could have helped me.
Exactly. And maybe that's a fuzzy logic kind of direction that things should be going in. But like I'd said in the minute microscopy, like the scientific method, we should be analyzing things constantly. Like, does this work? Are we producing the outcomes we want or proclaim to be producing? Is there a system to even ask those questions, test for them, and adjust accordingly? Like, that's an important thing. I honestly don't care if people know all the stuff. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you know all the names and dates of people in history. Like, what matters is the world getting better?
Yeah,
Is
a government should
humanity?
be altruistic to its
Yeah,
people. Like,
yeah,
like my efforts are to make as much good for as many people possible.
yeah.
Like just think that way.
Well, exactly, because okay, we could know all that we could know. We could be omniscient beings, right? Like, we know everything there is to possibly know, but still annihilate ourselves in some climate catastrophe or nuclear war or whatever because, well, we're too dumb to realize that that's exactly what's going on. Like, or just people simply being miserable. Like, I mean, you would have to ask the question, like, what is the purpose of life? Is the purpose of life to be a scholar, or is it to live a good life, a happy life, a safe life? I I don't know the answer to that question, but it's personal, I think. Like, each individual sort of figures that out for themselves. Some people want to be stamp collectors. Some people want to read comic books or watch all the movies. Or
why does anyone ask the question, what is the purpose of life? Why would you ever want someone to tell you what that is?
Mhm. Oh yeah,
Like,
well,
don't even ask that question. That was the most offensive question you could ever ask. What is the purpose of life? Well, whatever you want to fucking make it, you asshole.
Exactly. Yeah, you are 100%. That is spot on. And for there to be a system that mandates that you should behave a certain way because we've decided this is the purpose of life and this is the way you should behave to fit that mold. Well, that feels as destructive as forced sex, you know.
This episode feels like we've like put logic behind the science of snapping. Like, here's why it's healthy for you to snap. Just let go and snap. Whatever's pissing you off right now probably needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
So snap away.
Well, and maybe snap in a calculated sense. The Killdozer method, rather than some of the other ones like Columbine and whatnot. Like, maybe be more calculated. Try to make a statement. Try to send a message to future generations. Affect change that way.
Did Timothy and McVeigh take lives? I don't remember.
A few. He did pick a day where there were fewer people in the building.
Yeah, I mean, that's like,
yeah. I mean, but it did make a statement. He blew a giant ass hole in that building, which is burned in the memory of people. Like,
I mean, there's got to be buildings where, like, at most you'd have to figure out, like, okay, there's like 2 hours where a cleaning crew comes in. Maybe I won't bomb it until they're gone or something. You know, like,
yeah, like the middle of the night.
You can focus it better.
Yes. Well, sure, exactly. And that's kind of my point. It's like, you don't have to resort to violence. Like, yes, there are times when you have to fight back.
And destroying property isn't violence, in my book.
I mean, yeah, generally not. But killing people certainly is.
Yes. Killing or hurting people, yeah. That's not
especially cool. People who never wronged you. Like, okay, like you said, I'm just following orders. I'm just doing my job. You know, that was most of the Nazis. Like, are they all bad? I mean, do they all deserve execution and the worst possible fate? I don't know. I mean, that's a big question. But certainly they're complicit. But is the answer to kill everybody who has done you wrong or who is connected with those who have done you wrong? I don't think that's the answer.
And try to understand the rage of those people who feel like, I mean, maybe you've felt like, oh, every person down at the cell phone company needs to die. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, pick apart any one of those people and focus a microscope in on what that means.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying somebody who works at that place that maybe had nothing to do with what has grievance to you needs to die. How does that impact other people?
Well, you know, like, that's a good point, because
is this really worth it? Like
those people that are like clock punchers, like, they don't make the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're told what to do. They're just like drones, essentially.
Every company's fucking somebody in the ass. I mean,
that is true. And every government too. Like, they're all doing it.
And well, like you said earlier, they're pretty much the same thing. Companies, governments, you know, like,
yeah, they're all in bed together.
And it's all the same philosophy too. Like, a few people calling the shots, and everyone does what they say.
Exactly. A few people deciding on a high level the rules, and everybody has to fall in line and follow the rules. Why? I guess they're at the top or something, like they're the king. That's why the rules are should be followed. You
I
might lose your
suppose,
job.
what if government is really just, to boil it way down to like the evolution of our being? What if it was just like somebody saying, I'm going to help you, but in exchange, I'm not going to cook you and eat you because I know I can to survive and still be okay. Like I could just eat you and end you and use your energy to power myself, but I won't, because
Well, government, though, just like big corporations and churches, it isn't the people at the top, like the Pope, so to speak, who will be cooking you and eating you. They have their minions, their followers, who will do their bidding blindly, regardless of what is said. Um, and that is a huge
feed my
problem.
pretties.
Yeah. But that's a huge problem. Like, we as individuals, if you see a wrong in the world, the best way to solve it is to build that better world, to be, oh, I'm not going to say it, to set an example, um, and form your tribe, essentially. Like, we need to get together individually and solve these problems. We deferring to a higher power, praying to gods like, oh, I wish I please solve my problems. Like, when has that ever worked? Name a time. Like, that never works. Like, the best way is for everybody who is dealing with things, and we all are. Like, it doesn't matter your station in life, like what you look like, what your socioeconomic status is. Like, we're all dealing with a lot of the same shit. The best way to solve it is for us to come together and solve it ourselves.
Yeah.
As a team.
Even if miracles are real, doesn't it make more sense to go with the plan of action that has the most data behind it? Like, oh, this works. When we actually like work towards solving something, it works. But once in a while we can go, man, I wish it would work and I didn't have to do anything, and it actually happens. And then we think that's a miracle.
Yeah, so we'll just keep doing that because that one time in 1,000 it worked out. So why don't we
That's
just
the
keep
evolution of religion right there.
Yeah, it really is.
Bob, I thought this thing and then it came true. I must have found religion.
Yeah, exactly.
Gee, I guess you're right. I'll believe you. I'm gonna try that. And then once in his lifetime, he thinks something and it comes true, and he's like, Eureka! It is true.
Hey, well, why don't we just proclaim ourselves the founders of this organization, the emissaries of this god, and say, yeah, you better believe us, otherwise, oh, bad things are going to happen.
What does God need with a podcast?
Oh man, wow, this has gone down like so many really interesting avenues. Holy shit, wow. I didn't even get to Snowden.
Oh shit.
Speaking of people who sacrifice everything, like Edward Snowden, in my book, there are people who view him in different lights, and I understand that. It just depends on your particular perspective.
I think we gotta take a bathroom break.
Have you ever needed to grow a beard in a day? Well, now you can just take Beard-a-Maps, and within minutes you'll have the most awesome looking hipster beard you can ever imagine. It may begin as a tiger stripe beard, but don't worry, within just moments you'll have a full and lustrous beard.
This product and these claims have not been evaluated by the FDA because Beard Max does not actually exist. If it did, taking Beard Max should be done under careful supervision of a barber. Misuse of Beard Max can lead to positions in the back of band for ZZ Top. Side effects include stroking your chin when you have a good idea, urges to wear flannel, and polarization among women on levels of attraction to your beard.
But yeah, like Snowden to me is just like, I'm not all super anarchist, but when it comes to calling out bullshit, like that's the thing to do. Like, how can you not stand behind that? You know, like whatever your fucking political ideals are, put that to the side and be like, you know what's right? It is calling out some bullshit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he knew going in that his life was not gonna be the same.
Yeah.
Like essentially, he knew he would be dead, or could be dead, because, well, yeah, the U.S. government doesn't like people calling them out.
He at the very least can't be here again. He sets foot on this soil, like he'll wish he's dead if not be,
Guantanamo Bay, probably in torture.
And
so
like that's heroic.
It really is, because there are people who think, well, state secrets are legitimate, and there should be things the government keeps from the people, and okay, whatever, that's your own thing. But the stuff that he called out and provided, the information he provided, was so damning. Like it opened the door. Like, prior to the revelations of what Snowden provided, it was mostly like conspiracy theory kind of stuff, like Alex Jones, like, like they're spying on us and blah blah blah, and people could dismiss that. But now, in light of this, we can't dismiss it. It's like, no, this shit is real, and it's actually like way worse than we thought it was. And so, props to Edward Snowden for providing that information. It is so bad and so beyond what any reasonable person should think should be happening. Like, essentially, in the US, our own government views us as cattle, like property. We are just pawns in a game to them. And it is very evident when you look at that. Like, yeah, they're
wow.
And so
to play that game, you have to like know that's the game too. And like, I almost ran for governor. I wonder if they would have I wonder if it's like some kind of Scientology cult where they like swear me in, like, okay, you're gonna learn some things about how humanity operates on like a meta level.
Ooh,
you can't talk about it though. Like you're stuck in this way.
You have to sign an NDA or something.
Yeah,
like
you got to make sure nobody takes away your infinite term limits. Like you have to stay like this.
Well, it does kind of feel like that. The depth, like how deep it goes, is so terrifying. Like, I mean, horror movies and stuff can be terrifying, but this is not a movie. This is real life. Like, this is actually happening. And it's only I mean, I don't want to give people like restless sleep, but this is only the tip of the iceberg. Like, the stuff that Snowden released, and thousands of documents detailing all kinds of really heinous and frankly evil things. It's only the tippy top. That's just what he had access to. When you go down the rabbit hole, it gets very, very dark. And if people realized how dark it was, well, I don't think people would participate in the system anymore. And that is what terrifies them the most.
How do we know how dark it goes if he's the only one that's really, well, not the only one, but
there are others. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chelsea Manning and stuff too. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's
well, there's
like you try hard not to fall too far into the cracks, but like, try to maintain some kind of logic and skepticism.
Oh, sure. Yeah. We should always be skeptic of things, like, or skeptical of things. Don't just take things at their word. Like, just because Alex Jones says something doesn't mean it's true. But
yeah, maybe, I mean, like the exact opposite of Alex Jones is like, Snowden. It's like, well, we're going off the word of one guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just as extreme, really.
Well, and Snowden's thing was like an information dump. Like, he collected documents because he recognized, and rightfully so, that this is wrong. Like, this is going really off the rails. So he collected all this stuff and then just dumped it out for people. Like, hey, here you go. I think this is wrong.
One guy. So, I mean, like, for all we know, he's telling a story. But, his motive is to tell that story to help others. Whereas the angle that an Alex Jones is coming from is like, they don't want you to know, so it's more like,
well, Alex Jones is more like infotainment, so he's like making money
which needs conflict.
Yeah, exactly. Not that doesn't mean that everything he says is wrong, but it's obviously there was an ulterior motive there. Yeah. And with Snowden, the evidence for the factuality of it comes from the reaction of the state. How the government reacted to the release of this information. If I said, hey, I've got these documents, and it says like, well, the whole entire US government's run by lizard people. Well, I wouldn't be arrested. There wouldn't be a bunch of media discussion about that.
Because there's no lizard people to cover it up.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that he has to, he's living like in an embassy in Russia, I think. And like, he just, like you said, he can't come back here. Well, it shows, it adds a little bit of validity to what he's saying. And the thing is, like, he's not the only one. Manning is not the only one. Like, there are mountains and mountains of evidence out there, although they're full of holes of information. Like, we don't know all the details. And even with Snowden's revelations, we don't know all the details. We can't unless we're in the know. But what we do know does indicate enough information for it to be like, wow, like, who would do this?
Like, what we should do is take those revelations and like make them topics of a show.
Ooh.
If these things are aggravating people enough, a puny little show like ours that 12 people know about, that's not going to make very big waves if we disseminate the information in that way.
Yeah.
So we could be like an outlet.
I might have possibly downloaded all of the documents. I'm not going to say or confirm nor deny whether that happened. And it's probably not here at my house. So don't come knocking at 2 a.m., please. You're not going to find it, bitch. But yeah, that'd be a good thing to kind of like go through all these things and talk about them. It really sickened me to read through all this stuff and how the government views the people of this country. Like, we traditionally in the US kind of revere the government, maybe a little bit too much, as being this altruistic, like interested in helping people kind of organization. But yeah, it's not. Like, if all this stuff, if all this stuff is true, we are absolutely slaves, less than slaves. Like, at least slaves. Well, okay, I'll I won't talk any further.
Yeah, I mean, like, evil guys like Hitler really stand out because they're obvious.
Yeah.
But if you really want to be dastardly and get away with shit for as long as you can, you're going to have a PR campaign exactly like the United States of America.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, we're the greatest. We're the greatest. We're number one.
You better enjoy your anal reaming. And that is kind of how
America. Fuck yeah.
Ooh, man, that now took on a much different tone. But that is kind of how things are. Like, it's deception. Like, it's an illusion. If we think that any of these assholes, and yes, I'm referencing what you just said. If we think that any of these assholes like really care about us or want to make things better, well, we're living in a lie, and you might as well open the Bible or the Quran or whatever and say a prayer to your God. It's going to be the same thing. Like, the effect will be the same.
Yeah.
It's an illusion. But it's very much like religion, where if you start like questioning things, well, everybody who believes in that religion, well, they get all up in arms, like, oh, how dare you question my sports ball team? Like, come on, dude, open your eyes. Look.
Yeah. People
read a book.
People riot in the streets of the city that wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because they won the Super Bowl.
I know, exactly. Like, wait a minute, you won. And you're burning the place down.
Like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
You're happy, so you're pissing people off?
Yeah. Oh yeah, so you can imagine how bad it gets when they lose or something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, politics, just like sports, doesn't matter. Like, it's flaccid. It's like,
it's just entertainment for people.
It is. It's entertainment. It's limp dick. It doesn't have any effect on anything.
Politics is the entertainment industry.
Yeah. That is true. Like,
it really is.
When has any problem ever been solved by any of these systems, be it government or religion or whatever?
Government is the director of the reality show.
Yeah. Shh, don't say that.
Ooh.
You're not. Oh, don't say that out loud. We might be on the receiving end of a FBI raid.
Cease and desist from Fox.
FBI, open up. I don't know if that actually came across on the mic.
Did you
Yeah.
knock the mic off?
Yeah, well, I was trying to do an FBI raid on my mic, but oh god.
Well, that's enough beer.
There's just too many knobs.
You know, all you have to do for an FBI raid is just gently tap the microphone. It's gonna go boom, boom, boom.
It's true.
Calm your tits, man.
I mean, I think the ultimate solution, because I'm a pragmatist. Like I don't believe in faith and religious mumbo jumbo, like, oh, I believe in all these things. I mean, yeah, I do have a little bit of witchiness in me.
You want something done right, do it yourself.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think the way to solve problems is to get people together and solve the problems. Like, have conversations about the things that trouble you, your struggles and strifes, and let's fix it.
When you have a problem, you go to a friend.
Yeah.
If you don't have a friend that knows what to do, you hire someone that proclaims to the world, hey, I know how to do a thing. I'm willing to help you. You help me. and yeah, like
that's reasonable.
If we just see every interaction as that, as just like, I'm having a little trouble right now, you're willing to help me, I'm willing to help you, so you'll help me. Like, if we just chill out and be like, you know what, I'm getting as much out of this as I'm putting into it, even if it doesn't seem that way on the surface. Like, if you dig down, you're like, you know what, like, none of this really matters.
Well, true. And I think karma, as like woo as it is, I think is actually a thing. Like, you reap what you sow. It all comes back. Like,
yeah. So like, you see a good deed, you think a good deed, you do a good deed. So like, it could be like a ripple effect, like karma could actually be like a social wave of like good vibes and bad vibes and good vibes and bad vibes. Like, it's just statistics.
Exactly.
That's all karma is. Like, so good shit's happening in your general vicinity right now. Like, ride the wave, bro. Enjoy it. It's about to get shitty again. But hey, it'll get better.
Sure.
We're all on the same fucking boat.
We really are, and the boat is the Earth, spaceship Earth.
There's a philosopher that talked about spaceship Earth. Recent philosopher, like, anyway, never mind.
Well, it really is kind of that is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, Earth is really big. Most people don't realize how big the Earth is, and actually how small it is too. Like, one of the things that terrifies me the most and gives me like sleepless nights is thinking about the vastness of space and how insignificant things are and how fleeting things are. Like, it's terrifying, but at the same time, it's inspiring. It's like, well, okay, nothing is permanent. There is not such a thing as limitless resources. There's finite resources here. This is all we have. This is where we are. And we got to take care of it and each other. Like,
Your
how is that?
universe is like as far as you can comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got like a different universe. Some of them overlap, some of them don't. Like things that somebody is doing in China right now could probably butterfly effect for like a trillion years and never actually affect my life because it's that goddamn complex.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, we affect other people, but that has a reach too.
That's true.
You know, like our butterfly effect has not a goddamn thing to do with the one around Altair 4.
Nice putting that in. Yeah. Oh, man.
But it doesn't invalidate the mechanism of, you know, that social wave I was talking about.
And the rationale behind like taking care of the place that you live and the people you live with. Like, we're all, borders are stupid.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be looking at the planet as different countries. We should be looking at it as, well, the border is the atmosphere.
It's creating the grass is greener on that side of the fence mentality.
Well, and creating conflict between people artificially. People who would otherwise, if it weren't for these constructs, these people would just like, oh, hey, I make a thing, I want a thing, why don't we trade for those things?
I love
Like
how 2 hours later we get back to conflict again.
Yeah.
Like,
well, or it turns into like, hey, wow, you're hot. Why don't we fuck?
Yeah.
Like those
that's
things.
a conflict too. It's a positive one.
Well, it is, yeah.
As long as both people are consenting.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's the
That's
case
true.
with any interaction.
It is, yeah.
Like you said earlier, you know, like it's akin to someone having sex with you when you don't want to. You know, we call that rape and we load that word, but it's really just a thing you don't want to do that somebody else is doing to you.
Yeah, it's a forced violation of your bodily autonomy.
Yeah. I don't say
Whatever
that
it
to
is.
numb the experience of rape, but rather to like make it more relatable to other people that maybe haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
You know, like, because it really is the same thing. It may be more pronounced or, you know, may stick with you or more, may have more value in your life in positive or negative ways. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All of that's subjective.
Yeah, it is. Oh man. Wow, this is, well, I think that might be just about all the time we have for today.
Yeah. Wow. Jesus Christ.
This is,
we were waiting on somebody for an interview and we just had a whole episode.
yeah,
Like a movie length episode.
How do we do this?
Imagine if we had some big name director behind our show. It wouldn't even be as awesome. Like,
I know.
And it would
No, I
take
think
like 3 years and a $50 million budget, and still this would be more entertaining.
It would end up being the same show, just more expensive.
And more explosions and some tits.
And Michael Bay, like lens flares and stuff. Like, yeah.
No, wait, that's oh wait, what's his name? JJ Abrams.
I think it's Michael Bay
lens.
too. With the
okay, he did them too.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, geez. There's other tricks other than lens flares.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh man, this show is so good. How do we do this? Man, and how do we do this so drunk?
In every goddamn week.
The thing is, like, well, you have to ask yourself, how is this so epic and so deep and so thoughtful And yet all the people that everybody prays to, the gods and the popes and the politicians and stuff, they're presumably sober, and well, they can't. They don't know.
Sober, and they said one thing once that everybody refers to for time immemorial.
Exactly.
And we have like, we're creeping up on 200 episodes, I think.
Holy shit. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Man, Liquid Schwartz.
Which is like, let's say over 500 hours, probably more of this.
That, dude, we've almost reached the totality of hours of Star Trek. And I'm not saying like one season or one particular show, but all the Star Trek. Like, holy moly, man.
To be the next Roddenberry.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be good.
That would be cool. Honestly, that would make me feel good to like, if I could just know that like this show was as impactful to as many people in as much depth as what Roddenberry imagined.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's something that,
not for fame, but for impact.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't care what people think of me. Fuck. It doesn't really matter. But the effect on people's lives, I remember when we did the family episode, and how so many people talked about how it mattered to them.
That they were moved to tears.
Yeah.
Like one of our first 10 episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like moving people to tears. And it's like, that's the thing, is that there's something that means a lot to everybody.
Yeah. And that is so much more valuable than all the wealth on earth. And
that's
honestly,
what's so gratifying about hearing somebody talk about what they're passionate about, is like getting to experience the joy that they're feeling.
Yeah.
From something in life, you know, like whatever it is. You know, I mean, like, let's get blue and basic about it. Like, masturbating could be something that brings fulfillment to the life of somebody, and that's it. But you know what? Like, who are you to judge that? Because who's going to deny that it feels good? You know, like,
or brings fulfillment. Exactly.
Like, why is that an empty life? You know, like, why
and
is
how is that? How is that any different than, like, say, cleaning the kitchen?
Whatever brings you joy, whatever floats your boat, that's great. Don't judge the next person for what makes them happy.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Like, I mean, if it's bringing immense pain to somebody, sure, but like,
well, if somebody's experiencing pain, I think, I would hope that most people feel internally driven to help end that suffering in some way.
And that was the microscopy I recorded before the show, is like, you should just be doing things because you can empathize with how you would want somebody to intervene if they could. If they noticed, if they were nearby, if they were able and willing to help you, you would want them to, right? Like that should be the driving force behind everything. It's like, okay, that person needs help. I'm the only one around here. Guess it's up to me. You know, like,
see a problem, solve a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm guilty of passing that by on selfish occasions. Like, oh, you know, like, I could help that person, but I'm really hungry, you know, like, but that's fine too.
Well, you can't solve every problem.
Yeah.
But doing something when you have the capacity to, that's what it's all about. Like, obviously, even people like Elon Musk with all his billions of dollars can't solve all the problems.
Right.
It's not possible. Like, but together, all of us individually, you as an individual, and we all have the capacity to do something for someone else. We're all capable. If each person did something to help their fellow humans or the planet, our home, like, well, the world would rapidly be a better place. Like, it wouldn't take long. I'm holding back tears here. So, yeah, more beer.
I don't know. What if we're just like trying to find the amount of friction needed to like carry us up this spire of, I don't know, enlightenment,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and it takes a lot of effort, but we start unlocking more and more ways of interpreting in the way we interact with the fabric of the universe.
Ooh. Well, okay. So, my friend, that is dangerous talk that you're talking right now. The powers that be don't want us to get along. They want us to factionalize and infight, because, well, we could be controlled that way. So, but that's okay. Like,
What if conspiracy theorists are all like right, but we're just so deeply ingrained to call them crazy people?
I
That,
think
like,
you might be right there. I mean, this is a hill I'm willing to die on, that we should all be taking care of each other,
oh yeah,
having conversations with people, getting along, like making friends and family.
it makes the most sense.
It really does. And honestly, like, a lot of the problems that we see in the world, even though they appear to be very large, they're not mountains, they're molehills. They're very, very small. And because they're based on individualistic origins, like the wars, for instance, right? Like, all the millions of people that have killed each other in wars, like, they didn't go to war because they had a personal beef with the persons that they killed.
Right.
They did it because of the state or the king or whoever.
I was just following orders, man.
Yeah, exactly. And if all you do is just opt out, just walk away, well, you've just made the world a better place.
I tell you what, like, one thing that my adopted dad has instilled in me is one of his stories about a job he had just out of high school at Les Schwab. And they sent somebody out with faulty brakes because if they came in a little later, like, insurance would basically foot the bill to like spend as much as they want to fix it. So they basically let a family go out there and go on vacation on dangerous brakes just to like probably make more money later, if they didn't die. You know, and he was like, you know, I'm not going back to work there. I'm not going to patronize their company at all. Like, that value was instilled in me from that, you know, retelling of that story. Is like, hey, if a company is being a douche, you know, like, don't
Quit.
Yeah.
Well, or if a government is being a douche, quit.
Yeah.
Like, or a church. Like, I don't want to shit on any of these organizations because I think there's positive elements to all of them. Even churches, like I think churches do some great stuff, but they can also do really awful, heinous things, and people get behind them. And yeah, if you see something, do something. Like walk away at the very least.
TSA.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, that's why I don't fly anymore.
Oh wait, that's see something, say something.
Yeah,
do
it's
something.
a TSA.
They don't want you to do something.
No. Just tell them about it, and they'll do something.
Don't try to break free of the matrix. Let us handle that for you.
Yep. That is exactly the message. Oh man.
We'll break it if it needs to be broken.
Whew. Well, I think God damn, that is good.
Oh shit.
Well, we're like almost coming up on 2 hours now, so I think that's probably about enough time for this particular episode.
That's enough beer.
Yeah, I'm kind of coming down to the wire there.
Well, if people enjoyed this deep sink dive, you'll enjoy the other 200 and some odd episodes.
Yes.
Well, I'm not even counting the minute microscopies.
Oh yeah. So all in all, we probably
Close to 400. Really.
400 with like 200 unique songs. Oh well, 200 minus one. That one time.
One tiny mistake in 3.5 seasons.
For a show that has zero budget, too. I mean, you got to give us a break once in a while.
Oh, and I want to do my minute microscopy on budgets.
Oh, God.
Like the capital B budgets.
Oh, yeah.
Use it or lose it.
Oh,
here's a great way to waste money.
That does drive me nuts. Well, look forward to seeing that one.
Yeah.
Well, for now, I think we've rambled on long enough.
Ramble on.
Oh, great. Now I'm going to have to watch that. I have to listen to that song.
Well, if you want to ramble on with us, hit the like and share and subscribe buttons.
And, keep the conversation going down there in the comment section.
Yeah, boost anything. The algorithm, motherfucker.
Yeah. Say anything. Like, make a friend. Talk to people. Share your thoughts. Like, we welcome it. Unlike many others. I actually like to have my position challenged. That gives me a lot of pleasure. So go ahead, do your worst.
Give Eric a lot of pleasure.
Oh,
say, hey, what's going on?
Oh, Four Non-Blondes. Yes, I love that song. Oh, yeah. I've been known to sing that song by myself late at night. I love that.
If you're by yourself, how are you known to do it?
Well, that's a good point.
Propaganda.
Because Snowden, they know what I'm doing. Right in the middle of the night, they're watching me through my web.
Snowden's and at 0:13 hours, Eric Rosenblatt did dance in his boxers to
Hey, yeah.
And now the end is here.
city.